Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2 of Ask a Publisher. My name's Jeremy and let's get right into some questions here. Today's question is from Chris, and here's the question. He says, Jeremy, I've always been interested in writing a book. Do you have any advice on how to start? What the costs are, etc. So he's asking about how to start and what are the costs. The first thing I'm going to tell you, Chris, is go to episode 1. I talk about how to start. We get the conversation started there. For this episode, I'm going to go into what are the costs. So cost is determined by how much work you want to do in the project. And here's what I mean by that. Here's, for example, writing the manuscript. You could write your whole manuscript all on your own, every single word, you're typing it out. That's one way to go, and in that case, the cost is your time. If you got to buy a MacBook or whatever kind of other resources you're going to need, maybe a ton of coffee, those are going to be your costs. You can start there all the way to you want to have like a scribe type service, which is basically somebody who sits with you, and as you talk about what you want to have in your book, they're writing every word you say, basically transcribing your words. Then you can take that and on your own put that into the form of a manuscript. That could cost you, depending on the person you use, anywhere from $300 to $600, depending on how long you talk for and how many words you say. So there's actually services for this, like rev.com. They will actually, if you can record yourself with an audio file and you upload the audio file to rev.com, they'll transcribe it for you. I think it's $1 a minute is their transcription. So for example, you could get an account on freeconferencecall.com, which is free. You can use that service to record. You call into the conference line, you hit record, and then you got an MP4 download. You upload that file to rev.com. You're done. $300 to $500 to $600 depending on the duration. It's about $1 a minute to get it transcribed with Rev. That's another way. Another level of the spectrum here is just straight up getting a ghostwriter. Now, that is heavily determined on the writer that you're getting. I would be nervous if I was doing the lower the cost. I'd be a little nervous. So when you're talking about a ghostwriter, you're gonna get what you pay for. So I would say the cost could be, again, depending on the word count of your book, anywhere from $1,000 to $40,000 to $50,000, depends on the writer. So you can see the factors that go into this: financial, time. For some people, it might sound crazy to have somebody else ghostwrite the book for you and spend 40 grand, but it just depends on how much time. If you write the whole manuscript on your own, it could take anywhere from 300 to 500 hours. So what's your typical hourly wage? What do you make an hour? What's that hour worth to you? Multiply that by 300, and for some people, the 40,000 sounds a lot cooler. So the costs start with the manuscript itself. Then you move on to the cover design and the internal layout. So I would say if somebody is charging you to do a book cover less than $300-400, I'd be a little nervous, unless they're like your friends saying, hey, I'll give this to you for next to nothing. You're going to look at paying anywhere from $500 to $5,000 for a good cover design. And I'll tell you this, one of the biggest, if you're doing it all on your own, the biggest place I'd put money into the production of your book is into a really good cover. And you can tell a good cover designer, one, obviously by their past work, 2, by their references, 3, by the questions they ask you. They should be super inquisitive to your audience, who they are, to the feeling state that they are in when they come to your book, to the feeling state you want to create as they get out of your book, and to the emotions you want your cover to invoke. They should be asking you questions about color schemes, fonts. They should have a process to intake information from you. That's how you can tell a good designer. So if you're looking at designers, a good question to ask them is, hey, what is your process to get all the information from me that you need to get this cover done? And then just let them answer that question. That'll give you a good idea in terms of, the quality of design you can expect. And I always ask for references. Now, layout's kind of the same story. Layout also depends on word count. So, for example, if I pull out this book's by Chuck Gumbert. It is how many pages? 116 pages. It is easier to write a 300-page book than a 100-page book. I think it was Mark Twain that said, if I had more time, the letter would be shorter. It's so true. But here's why I say this. In the very beginning, you want to set a word count goal. So this is about 17,000 words. That looks like about 60 to 70 pages in a Word document, and you want to set that word count goal. And this is what I encourage people to do. This size of a book, it looks and feels like a book. There's some weight to it. There's some value to it, perceived value, and it's not too intimidating to me to pick it up and read it, and I can knock this out maybe in an hour, or, if you're like me, maybe 2 hours. But you get the point. It's a good sized book and it's not intimidating. Also though, if you write, what I see happen that increased cost is this. People go and they write their manuscript and it's a 300-page manuscript in a Word doc. Or it's like a 70 to 80,000 word book. And that might be good, it might be bad. And here's how you can discern that is your word count is going to determine a lot of other costs. So there's a multiplier to this. For example, your word count is going to affect the editing cost because editors will charge by the hour or by the word. It'll affect your proofing costs. The people who proof the book before it gets printed, they will charge by hour or per word. The people who will lay out your book, they charge usually per page. So you can see these costs, and then printing, of course, thicker the book, the more cost it is to print it and to ship it. So you can see the multiplier of costs there just by your word count. So to take control of that word count and you don't get too long-winded throughout, there's two big things you can do for that. One is just set that intention right away. And then two is get a good editor who will cut through all the clutter and get to the core of your content so that you're only putting together what is essential for your book. So those are like the two basic costs, the manuscript itself, the editing, the proofing, and so forth, and then the cover design as well and the internal design of the book. So those are two major costs to consider. So hopefully I've given you a little bit of information. If you have more questions, put them right in the comments below. I'll be surfing around here to find and help you answer any questions that you need. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.